Pry Open Your Third Eye with me, your big-headed know-it-all, polymath Scott Spackey, and guests. Change your mind, change your life. Full episodes, services, knowledge, and all you'll ever need on scottspackey.com and life-mind.com. Are you ready?
Find me where the ocean collides with the sun.
Welcome to and welcome back to Pry Open Your Third Eye with me, your host and polymath and big-headed know-it-all, Scott Spackey. Let me real quick address that. Big-headed know-it-all polymath. The big-headed know-it-all is kind of a joke, kind of a fun way of saying that I'm a polymath. And here's the irony about polymath. Polymath, for those who may not know, is a person that is well educated in many different areas of topics and subjects, mastering several of them. And the irony, Chloe, then people, I was not familiar with that word until a few years ago, till a couple years ago, till very recently, actually. I was reading a biography on Da Vinci, a really great biography that I found on him. And they kept using this term polymath for him. They described what he was and what a polymath was. And I'm like, oh my God, that's kind of what I am. I'm not saying that I'm like Da Vinci. I'm not anywhere near that. But indeed, I am well known for being well educated and on many different topics that are very unrelated to each other and mastering several of them as well. And again, it's kind of like how Michelangelo and Da Vinci were contemporaries. Michelangelo was making a lot more money and way more famous, way more popular, but that's all and I'm not saying that's all he did. He was a great man, obviously, but big ego on Michelangelo, not so much with Da Vinci. And so he was an artist. Da Vinci was a scientist, a biologist, a philosopher, a historian, a artist. It was just everywhere. And so I realized that I kind of fit this term, and against my concern of feeling prideful and boastful, I decided to use the term because I thought it was good marketing. I thought it was an accurate term. And then I found out that when I went back and was reviewing some of my older work, Project Addiction, the complete guide to using, abusing, and recovering from drugs and behaviors, that's become a video course and all this kind of stuff. The follow-up to that, and that book became about because many of my addiction clients, they did an intervention on me. Okay. One of them booked an appointment, and I went, and there was like 5 people I didn't even know we knew each other that knew me for addiction treatment. And they all sat down and were telling me, like, Scott, if you don't document your innovative methods of drug addiction recovery, then it's going to die with you. You've got to do this. They really pressured me. And they were heartfelt. They were saying, like, look, you saved all of us. No one else could. And so your innovations, you can't find them anywhere. And you've got to document this. So that's how the book was born. The follow-up to that book was Project Addiction Counselor, teaching people, the subtitle of that is how to create and sustain a private practice, because the facility treatments are all crap and they pay people like shit, and they treat qualified certified counselors like dirt. They treat them as interns. I barely pay them. And so I was teaching people how to start a private practice. Sure enough, I have a chapter in that book that says polymath, being a polymath. And I'm advising and telling people to become well-educated and well-rounded in many subjects so you can relate to your clients in many different areas. So apparently I used it before. So that's kind of where that came from. So I'm the big-headed know-it-all, polymath. And Third Eye, this podcast that Chloe and I have collaborated on since its inception, is not about gently massaging open your third eye to be able to become more aware. It's about prying it open. So any topic we address here, which is a wide variety, wide spectrum of issues and topics, whatever's on our mind, whatever we think is interesting, whatever we can be educated in, whatever we're smart about, is to destroy ignorance for many people. I exist, I feel, to simply help people develop into better people and a wider range of thinking. I'm not benevolent. I'm not anything like that. I'm just a guy. I'm just regular, whatever. I don't even like most people. There's that saying, humanity I love, it's people I can't stand. And I subscribed to that for a long time. I changed it somewhat recently and said, no, people I like, humanity I can't stand. It's the collective consciousness of the world out there that I can't stand. What people are is in mass. When I meet people individually, I get to know them and I like them quite a bit. Initially, again, superficially, just acquaintance-wise, I don't like really anybody. But once I get to know people, I see what's wrong with them and where they came from, and I see their yearning desire to become better people, and that slays me. So Chloe, of course, is here today, and she began as my number one student. This is how Third Eye came about. Now, We made two separate episodes. We have an introduction to this podcast, explaining what it's about. That's about an hour long. Then we also have one that's get to know yourself by getting to know us. Because when we interview each other, we realize that these questions that I crafted for this interview kind of stuff to get to know us was something that people should be asking themselves. So I'm pointing to that because those sessions were very important, because I felt that we both felt it was very important that if we're going to do this, people are going to tune in. The first thing they may ask themselves, like, who the fuck are these guys? Why should I listen to them? Why they're talking about these subjects, like, who are they? And that's how I am with everybody that's out there. I want to know who you are. Why are you on YouTube? Why are you doing this? What qualifies you? So we did these two sessions, get to know, Pry Open Your Third Eye, get to know yourself by getting to know us, to address those things and get to know us. So again, you go back and review those. I'm just giving you a brief introduction on that today. And I'm doing this because as we get new listeners and more listeners as we go along, every once in a while, I think it's smart to add this little introduction, a little mini version of get to know us and get to know the podcast. Chloe became my number one student. Number one, because what you may see sometimes during our video sessions here is that sometimes it looks like she's looking away and not paying attention. The reality is she's taking notes. She is a meticulous, notorious note taker. Okay. And so I look and I was like, is she even listening to me? I'm looking at the video later. And I realized that you're taking notes. And the benefit of that, there it is. See? And not only is she my number one student because she listens and pays attention, which for me is huge, but she applies what I teach. I've seen, witnessed, and been able to enjoy seeing her develop more as a human being by adding into that. And that's why I exist as a counselor. All I ever wanted, I also would get paid for my sessions, of course, as a career, but I wanted from my clients is I want people to use what I teach them. I had a lot of clients over my practice that I saw pro bono for free that couldn't afford to pay me. My condition was this: show up and be diligent with your appointments and be flexible, because if you're not paying me, I might have to bump you for somebody that is paying me because I got to make a living too. So be flexible on that. And then the other thing was, I want you to be aware, pay attention, apply what I'm teaching you. If I'm going to see you for free and treat you and give you my wisdom and knowledge, then I want to see you apply it and use it, not waste it. And I had a few people that I didn't see in that, and I would let them go. I discontinue sessions with them. Everyone else, almost all of them, they were so grateful for having free work with me, and they ended up often would pay me later. So that's the kind of the condition. And that's why Chloe became my number one student. Why we became partners and collaborators, and what I say, my partner in crime for Third Eye. Because she listens, she pays attention, she takes meticulous notes, and she retains and applies what I teach her. And as a teacher, as a guide and mentor and a counselor, that's your dream. That's your fantasy, is people that actually apply what you're teaching them. So Shannon began collaborating on this project, Third Eye, for this exact purpose. She felt, as again, I was intervened by with many of my clients in the past, that a lot of what I know and what I offer will die with me. And so we're kind of documenting that. And people like to exploit me. She's one of the few, some people in the past. I know the producer that I worked with that was doing the same thing. He's like, you know what? I'm going to put you out there. He would just turn the camera on me and throw me out a subject and just say, talk about that. And that happened often in my office in LA too, in my private practice. We had these topics from a hat, like that Whose Line It Is Anyway with Drew Carey. They did that, the topics from a hat. And so they would just pick up a topic and those guys would improvise, right? So we had the same kind of thing with my practice in LA. People would gather in my room, in my office, and it was a very comfortable place to be. And they would just pick random topics. They'd throw them into a hat. They'd all write down a word or something. And then whatever came up, I would elaborate on that, right? And it could be anything random, usually something kind of insightful. But the thing is, what Chloe and I have done with our sessions as privately and on this podcast is we never know where it's going to end up. What we begin with, especially in our private sessions, I will begin by saying, I anticipated, I thought of a couple topics to make it worth your while. Here's what they are. She would agree with that. And then we might be on a different subject 3 minutes later and not even go back to the first one, because we go down a rabbit hole and just follow it and have a great time. We realize, like 2 hours after conversation in your sessions, we realize, like, oh my God, we didn't even talk about that thing we began with. We didn't even address it. We talked about it for like 2 minutes, you know?
Or
And
we'd
that's
see how we did somehow talk about it. It was somehow related, but The tangents take us to deeper levels of things, I
That's
think.
right, and that's what my following in LA began to realize. They saw me as kinda like a circus animal. They would wind me up, throw out a topic, throw out any word, and I would just talk about that. But I would end up, while I'm explaining it, taking it on different paths, different journeys, and all kinds of different areas. Because to explain this one thing, it just led to another, right? My son would do the same thing. I didn't think he would talk about me much. He'd get some of his friends. He goes, "Yeah, watch this," and he would tell his friends, just like throw out a word, like ask my dad a question, and watch this. And I'm like, seriously, right? And I didn't think my son listened to a goddamn thing I ever said, right? He's like, watch
That's really
this, ask
funny.
my dad a question, ask him anything. And I wouldn't. I'd just go on, elaborate. And what we would learn is any random topic would lead us into realms and ideas and concepts about life and philosophy and spirituality and all kinds of things that truly matter, which is what Third Eye is all about. To use these topics to develop and branch out. Now, today's topic, suggestibility, is going to do just that. I've been looking forward to this one. It was hard to wait till the end of the EP series to do this one because I wanted to do it sooner, but it needed to come after. And in many ways, it could have come first because that's where I begin as a therapist, counselor, and a hypnotherapist. I begin with suggestibility with people. So yesterday, I had a student client that I began working with when he was 17 years old, maybe 16 years old. He was a very troubled young man, wonderful young man that I absolutely grew to adore. And I became something of an uncle to him. I was close to his family and all this. And he became a great musician. And the theme song that you hear for this podcast, he's the composer of that. That's one of his pieces of many things that he's done. And I think he's such a gifted musician. He turns me on to so many great things. And I reached out to him yesterday. I haven't talked to him in maybe a few years. We stayed in touch for a long, long time. He's in New York now. He toured around the world as a musician, and to see this kid go from just a high school kid that had some trouble with pot and parents and all that kind of crap that I would get introduced to, and to watch him and help him grow, and his parents come close to me and be so grateful for my involvement with them. It's been an amazing experience and journey with all of them. Anyway, he goes by Seb Hall as a musician. That's his stage name, you could say, because he is a cousin of Daryl Hall from Hall and Oates, who is, in my opinion, the only one talent out of the two. I'm not a pop music guy, okay, but I know that Daryl Hall is a very well-renowned, well-rounded musician, very well-rounded. So
Oh, I love Hall& Oates.
yeah, see, I know. I thought you mentioned that before. So yeah,
I saw him at Red Rocks a couple years ago.
So Seb Hall, the reason he uses Hall is because he is a cousin of Daryl Hall. Okay. And so I know him as Spencer. That's how I met him. So Spencer, anyway, he's one of the people that intervened and was there. He's one of the ones that led the charges for me to be able to document Project Addiction and all this. He's one of the main ones. And now he just texted me. He and I agreed to catch up very soon, the next day or so, spend some time on the phone because I haven't talked in a while.
Well,
So,
thank you, Spencer and company,
right.
for doing this years ago.
Oh, so that's one of the reasons I want to reboot this introduction kind of thing. Because Chloe, as my student and producer, co-producer, sometimes the executive producer, she is authorized, encouraged, and I requested her to sometimes intervene and tell me either move on, slow down, because I can speak really fast. Now, this isn't deliberate. It is because in 2013, as she knows and many people know, I suffered a massive, worst known to science brain trauma called a DAI injury. And as a result of that, I'm very self-conscious because I went from being an award-winning, and I don't mean awards like big awards, I'm saying like Toastmaster, I was always winning awards there for public speaking. And I did it all the time. I was a lecturer, workshopper, and teacher and public speaking all the time. I was on the circuit. And my brain trauma really screwed all that up. And I'm very conscious that I don't articulate that well. Sometimes I slur, and I'm very insecure about it. And it really annoys me because I know I'm very aware of it. And so anyway, sometimes I rush through things because my mind works faster than my mouth can. I've way more. I'm trying to get it out there before the thoughts go away because I'm having so many at once, right? It's a polymath symptom. And it's not easy to deal with. And so I've asked Chloe to occasionally sometimes say, Scott, slow down. Okay. Repeat that or something, because if she doesn't, I don't always know that I'm doing it. I encourage her to do that. Occasionally, tell me to slow down, tell me to shut up, tell me to move on. And again, she won't usually tell me to move on because she's like me. She'll go down the rabbit hole on any subject. We'll go somewhere. We don't even realize we've had to go back and edit some of these sessions out that end up being 2 hours long because they would have been 2.5 or more long. But we had to go back and realize that we went off in a different tangent here and it had nothing to do with what we came there to talk about. Happens all the time. Today, I want to stay generally on this topic now that we're beginning it now. Suggestibility. What is suggestibility? In the broader term, you could simply say communication. What is communication? Communication is the way we import and export ideas, thoughts, and emotions. Suggestibility is a more refined term of that. So communication is the broad spectrum of how we import and export ideas, thoughts, and emotions, right? Sounds real simple. Suggestibility is how we each personally do this. And there's 2 forms of this. Now, the way we import and export our model of the world, I'm air quoting there, model of the world, because our model of the world is our subjective view of reality, not objective. There's an objective reality that is immune to all of us. It just exists. Fire is hot, water is wet. How hot? That's subjective. That it's hot, it's objective. It has a heat, it has a temperature. So our model of the world is our perspectives. And no one is the same. We have 8 billion of them on this planet. They're all different. And yet, there is also an objective reality that's immune to any of our perspectives. That is the truly way things are. The theory is that enlightened masters, Buddhas, acharyas, gurus, the enlightened masters, they are in tune with and they experience the objective reality. That's why they're enlightened. That's what enlightenment is, to transcend subjective reality and attain and access objective reality. You see things how they really are. The illusion is gone. This is the purpose and function objective of Pry Open Your Third Eye podcast, to destroy ignorance and reveal things the way they truly are. And suggestibility is that topic. Again, communication, how we import and export our model of the world. Import, how we listen, see, perceive, how we intake it, how we receive it. Export, what we say, how we say it, how we emote, our gestures, our body language, all that, everything that we export from within, that's our export of it. Suggestibility is a more referential term that I learned in hypnotherapy. As a hypnotherapist, and keep in mind that I am a clinical hypnotherapist. Okay, I went to HMI. We've been talking about this. It's in the introduction part of this series. And suggestibility is one of the first things I learned, because prior to John Kappas, who we've been referring to throughout this series, prior to John Kappas, there were hypnotizable people and people that were not hypnotizable. John Kappas realized that everyone is hypnotizable if you know their suggestibility, and there's only 2 types. The people that were not hypnotizable, he realized and found out that this is because you're not applying the right suggestibility to them. You're using literal suggestibility, not inferential, which we're going to be going into. If you know the 2 types of suggestibility and how to identify them with somebody and test it and put it to use, then everyone is hypnotizable. Everyone is suggestible. Never mind hypnotizing. I don't like that word. Hypnotherapy, hypnosis, suggestibility is what I refer to it as, is I create states of suggestibility, and then I provide suggestions that influences people. It gives them the power and the ability to adapt to them. The so-called myth that you can't be hypnotized and be made to do something you don't want to do is absolutely true. That ain't a myth. So no one ever has to worry about being manipulated to do something they don't want to do because of being hypnotized. It can't happen. You will not and cannot do anything that's against your moral fiber principles, your personal principles. You can't do it. Suggestion is not that powerful and potent. It influences. So suggestibility is just that. You're suggesting things. Communication is all about suggestibility.
Can I clarify that?
Yes,
So you're
please.
saying that I've been to some hypnotists for entertainment and say so and so gets up on the stage and does something that's embarrassing for
Yeah,
me or for someone else. But you're saying that that so and so is actually willing. It's not something that would be against their moral fibers.
that's
They're
right.
okay with doing
Fucking like
that.
a chicken is not something that's against all their morals and ethics. Nothing philosophical about it. It's just it's superficial. It may be embarrassing, but yeah, it's not against their principles.
And so it's not possible to manipulate someone to do something against their
Precisely. You cannot make somebody hurt someone
subconscious
else or hurt
desire.
themselves or anything like that. Nothing. Steal any crime. Again, if they're already a criminal, if they're okay with that, then you probably could. But but it's anything you're personally against. Your moral fiber, your ethics, your moral code. Hypnotherapy and hypnosis cannot defy that. Now, as you mentioned about hypnotists in entertainment, when you go to see a hypnotist entertainer, what do? They sit on stage and they give these tests. They get people to close your eyes. What they're doing in those moments is they're testing everybody. They're seeing who is suggestible and who's not. So when they say, everyone stand up or close your eyes and put your hand out or whatever. So you saw something like that, right? They give you some kind of query, and then they end up picking 2 or 3 people to bring up on stage. The reason they selected those people is because while they're doing these tests that you don't see as tests as part of the show, they're actually testing people's suggestibility. They're seeing who is literally suggestible and who's not. Okay? Who's somnambulist? Somnambulists are the ones that go into the trance. Okay? And I'll tell you, when it happens,
What's that word again?
somnambulist. Yeah, there are very few people, less than 10% of the entire population are somnambulistic. Okay? Those are the people that when you put them under and you clap your hands or snap your fingers, they literally go out. They collapse. Okay? And I thought it was like a myth. Then I had clients do it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is bizarre. Like they are out, right? And yet then you get them to talk, walk, all kinds of stuff, and they have no idea what they're doing. And again,
It's a
it's not
certain
even,
type of suggestibility.
yeah, somnambulism is a depth. So not really a type so much as a depth. So basically you could say that as an emotional sexual male, and we talk about the EMP, I'm not somnambulistic at all. So I'm very aware. Most people are still aware during hypnotherapy session. They're very aware and they could interact with it and they could stop it anytime they want and all that. There are a few people, again, less than 10% of the population are somnambulists that when I count them down and I count my fingers, they go out. They're completely in a trance. Okay. And it's pretty exciting to see and pretty bizarre. So,
Entertaining.
huh?
Then it's entertaining. For
It can be. Again, my first time I was like, whoa. Like I thought that was a myth. Like you're seeing it happen. It's pretty cool. And they will usually not remember anything while they're in a trance. You can give them suggestions not to remember it or to remember it, whatever you want. It's pretty powerful stuff. The cool thing is the somnambulist, for example, I could give them suggestions. Would they come to me to quit smoking? My smoking cessation program that includes hypnotherapy, now a video course, is a 6-week, 6-session course. Okay. The somnambulist, one session is it. You don't smoke anymore. That's it. You're done. They're literally suggestible, not inferential. The inferential, which is the larger part of the population, I got to take them through the entire course. Most people are more inferential. Now, so we're getting to today. Literal versus inferential suggestibility. Literal is just what you think it is. Whatever you say is the exact thing. It's literal. Inferential is what you're inferring. Okay? So to the literal suggestible person, once I put them in a hypnotic trance or a highly suggestible somnambulistic state of hypnosis, of suggestibility, then I can just say that's done. And they will take it literally. And then it's done. But I have also seen that somnambulists, literally suggestible people, highly literal suggestible people, they will usually be the ones that return to smoking or something later on in life at some point in the future. So I've got to do the follow-up sessions because without the follow-up session, they'll be like, oh, I'm done. I need to come back. And I tell them, they think I'm just trying to get more money, right? Because it's only one session. But I'm telling them, say, look, take it or not. I'm just telling you, if you don't come back and have at least 3 or 4 follow-up sessions, you'll probably, and I can't say you'll probably come back because I can't suggest that. Then I'm undoing my work. So I can't say it out loud. I want to find a way to say then you need to keep coming back without saying, because if you don't, something bad's going to happen. Because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, like, dread the world kind of thing if you don't see me anymore. and that's kind of challenging. But I would usually just kind of put it out there and say, look, I suggest strongly that you keep coming back for 3-4 sessions in a row, 3-4 weeks. Okay. You spent the money. We did this. If you want to trust me, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. Keep my card because you're probably going to need it. If you ever need it, then I'm here. They would call me a month or two later and say, you know what, I started smoking again. See, because you didn't do the follow up sessions. Okay.
So it's gotta go deeper into our subconscious. So on a more shallow conscious level, a literal person is able to stop doing something very quickly, but for it to stick, we
That's right.
all need more subconscious work.
As usual, thank you for bringing up a point that I would have missed out on. That's 100% right. So when I have a somnambulistic client that goes into that deep sleep, like we literally just out, I don't keep them there. I bring them up. I don't want people in somnambulistic states. That's not a good thing for it doesn't work. So I don't let them stay somnambulist. I don't let them stay in that deep trance state. I bring them up a little bit so they can continue to hear me interact, and I give them tests. Okay. So I can't have them in that completely conked out state. They are awake. They can hear. They will follow suggestion, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that. But again, indeed, as you're saying, it's counterproductive. To make it last and give them legs to the whole thing, I bring them up and out a little bit so they're more in the 70% range of somnambulism rather than 100%. You follow me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want them
they're
in
not
that
in
deep
that.
of a state. As a matter of fact, John Kappas would train you. I mean, when I got my certification on it, he would tell you that. He would tell you, when you get somebody in somnambulist state, don't leave them there. It's not going to work. Now, this takes a lot of skill. Now, again, there was a one time people thought that a certain population percentage was actually hypnotizable. They are all hypnotizable if you know the suggestibility style they have. Okay. And again, hypnotherapists in a nightclub will test the audience members by giving you some things to do, and then they pick the points that they realize are somnambulist. Okay. And which you can do very quickly. You can tell who's somnambulist, who's not, because bottom line is, even in an audience, when he's telling you to close your eyes, put your hand on your head or whatever, all that stuff, people that are actually literally doing every bit of it, they're somnambulists. Okay. Everyone else may be kind of going along with it, if that. Okay. Everybody can resist. Anybody can resist except somnambulists. They will usually go out. So John Kappas is the one that realized that what Milton Erickson was doing, who we talked about in an earlier session, Sigmund Freud was very jealous of Milton Erickson. Sigmund Freud ended up saying that hypnosis and therapy was bullshit. That's because he was jealous and he couldn't do it. Milton Erickson was a brilliant man that could hypnotize anybody in an instant by shaking your hand. He was fucking bizarre. He was really brilliant guy. And this is because he understood suggestibility. But when they asked Milton Erickson to write it down and explain what he did, he said, I can't do it. It's all intuitive. I don't know what I'm doing. I just act what seems right at the moment. I have no science to this. It's all intuitive. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, was the branch that came out of Milton Erickson's hypnotherapy style. I don't like NLP. I don't think it's anywhere close to what Milton Erickson did. They banked off this thing. I think it's crap. It does work. It can work, not all the time. Anyway, another topic, another story, which we went into another earlier session as well. The point is that as John Kappas stood on the shoulders of Milton Erickson, he was able to break down and see what it was Erickson was doing. And there's not enough video or anything of Erickson because it was back in the 30s, right? But John Kappas pioneered this and realized that everyone is hypnotizable if you know both types of suggestibility. Nambulists are very close to being 100% literal, suggestible. Deep sleep, you are out. You can't hear, little suggestions. Everyone else is inferential. And most people, we're a blend of them. We are partly literally suggestible and partly inferentially suggestible. What we're going to be talking about today with these questionnaires, we're going to go over some of those, and I'm going to teach you about what these are, is to discover the percentage. If I use literal suggestion on an inferential person, it will not work at all. If I use inferential suggestion on a literal person, it will not work at all. And if I use the wrong ratio for them, it won't work. I've got to know what percentage of literal and what percentage of inferential they are in order for me to use suggestibility with them. Now, as Milton Erickson could hypnotize anyone, I do the same thing. I stood on the shoulders of giants, him and John Kappas, and I can do the same thing. I'm not hypnotizing you at all. I'm simply making suggestions. I can't tell you, this young man Spencer's one of them, and another young man that I'm thinking of, They all knew after a while by coming to see me that I might as well do what Scott says because I'm going to end up doing it anyway. I don't know how he does it, but eventually I end up doing what he says and thinking it's my fucking idea. And that is the power of suggestibility. Now, I use my powers for good. I'm only here to help people become better people. I'm not trying to get them to do anything, and I would never get anybody to do anything that's against the moral codes or anything like that. But indeed, what I'm doing the entire time I'm talking to clients and students is, and I'm sure you've seen it too, and maybe you haven't, but I think you have. People end up doing these things and thinking like, oh my God, this is exactly what Scott said. What is he, psychic? And I said, no, I'm not psychic. I'm simply using your suggestibility to put ideas in so you think that you're your own. I'm not changing your mind. I'm simply giving you options. And because this is the healthier, smarter choice to make, you end up doing that. And you think it's your idea rather than mine. Because if you think it's my idea, you're going to reject it. We all have this natural rebellion. Anything we're told to do, we're not going to do. Even if it's a good idea. Right? Isn't this part of the human condition? The moment we're told to do something, even if we were going to do it right now, even if we're doing it, somebody tells us, we're like, well, I'm not doing it now. Fuck you. No, I have my own will. I'm not doing what you're telling me to do. And I learned
It's
early
like
on.
with parenting.
Right. Yes, exactly with parenting. That's where this is going. As hypnotherapy became less of my practice as the therapeutic and addiction and all those kind of areas took over, fewer and fewer people were coming to see me exclusively for hypnotherapy, which is how I started out. And yet, that's all I was doing. The entire time I'm using hypnotherapy, the entire time, because I didn't have to induce hypnotherapy on anybody. I don't have to hypnotize anyone. Like Milton Erickson, I'm just using it all the time. The way I speak to you, how I speak to you, the words that I use, all of this is designed for you particularly. And again, as I'm addressing a crowd of people, if I'm giving a workshop and I have an audience of people, it has been very, very well noticed and very commented on, sometimes not so very kindly, that I can be redundant. I'm saying the same thing in different ways. This is because I've learned that if I say something one way, many people are going to get it and take it in and accept it. Their subconscious mind will accept it without rejection, without interference. Another group of people, because they don't have the same suggestibility, will not take it in. So I restate the same thing in a different way based on that suggestibility. So I'm not really redundant. I'm saying the same thing in different ways that makes you think that I'm being redundant, but I'm not. What was rejected by this person a moment ago, suddenly they're accepting it and they don't even realize it. So it's part of the challenge that I've had as a counselor and as an orator and as an author is that I get some blowback and some feedback and criticism of being redundant, saying the same things. But I've learned that it's a small price to pay because it works. Because again, I will say the same thing 3 or 4 different ways on the same page in a book. But one person's getting the first one person's not getting any of those, but they're getting the final one. I've got to be thorough. I'm there to teach and guide and counsel. I'm trying to save lives in addiction counseling and anxiety and depression. I'm trying to save lives. I'm not trying to make you like me. I'm trying to get through to your subconscious mind, which is what suggestibility does. It enters into your subconscious, not your conscious mind. As we've gone over in the prior episode, your conscious mind is only 12% of your thinking and feeling apparatus, as I like to call it. Your thinking and feeling apparatus is only 12% conscious, 88% is subconscious. Whatever you don't get in your subconscious is not going to happen. And again, my little motto for Life Mind, if change were as simple as make up our minds, we'd all be perfect. Right? We all know what we want to be. We need to get the subconscious mind on board because it's got all this stuff in there. All these suggestions that we've gathered throughout our lives up to this very moment. They need to be worked around.
It's kind of a horrifying prospect
It can be. It's a lot of work. And I
that
tell
we
you,
only function with 12% of our conscious minds. To
well,
come to terms with that is like, oh my gosh, I thought I was more in control than this.
that's right. Everyone thinks they're so in control. It's like, no, the reason you chose those shoes, that shirt, your hair, everything about you, you have a conscious reason. That's a tiny part. It's a little sliver. The rest of it is all these layers of subconscious layers of why you like this way. And again, it's what suggestibility EMP is all about. To understand what's truly motivating your perceptions, your choices, your actions, your everything you are. And again, suggestibility is the gateway. How we phrase something, how we speak, how we communicate to someone specifically to them. And again, because if I speak literally to an inferential person, I'm wasting my time. The little person standing right there in the same audience that I'm speaking, that I'm lecturing to, sitting right next to each other. And when the literal person's like, why the fuck is he saying it again? What is this guy, dumb? Wait, why can't he get it? Then I say it inferentially. And the literal guys, and they're like, what the hell does that mean? But the inferential person, like, oh, I get it now. Right? And
That makes sense.
I have to take the brunt. I know that many people are thinking he's going on and on about the same kind of thing. And again, I've learned that that's a small price to pay. The few people that get irritated by that, it doesn't matter. I've got to get through to people. I've got to get them the medicine that they need.
So are the people that are getting irritated by it, are they a a combination, a ratio that's more in the middle of both?
Good question. Great question. And I'm glad you asked. No, literal people have a tendency to get more irritated by that. Inferential people are pretty cool with it. Inferential people are like, they're way more laid back and easygoing with it. The more literal suggestible you are, the more literal communication you are, the more irritated you are with things that are not literal. Okay? Inferential people are far more flexible. They like things more conceptual. Okay, I'll give you an example. I had a client came to see me as a hypnotherapist to lose weight. Okay? He was a sheriff. Where I lived in Santa Clarita in LA, but the suburb that I lived in was dominated by back end production in Hollywood, the grips and the staff and all the people that are back on the back lots and all that. There was a big population of that stuntmen. I had a lot of stuntmen, and also law enforcement. Sheriff and police lived in Santa Clarita. So a law enforcement guy came to see me, sheriff, which are very different than police. You can't speak to them the same way. Very different suggestibility, but they're very literal. Have you gotten a speeding ticket before?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen they write this little tiny, tiny print that's so exactly precise? It's perfect, right? And look, it's tiny. To write on those little tickets, it's tiny, tiny. I could never. And so I asked a cop once, I said, listen, I got to ask you, do you guys get trained and go to some type of school or class to learn how to print that small and that clearly? He goes, no. He goes, why? And I said, because you all do it. He goes, really? He didn't know it. And so it's part of the suggestibility, because they're very precise in their thinking. They have to be, like military people, right? And so that's a manifestation of that literal mindedness. The fact
Yeah,
that they write
handwriting.
this tiny print on this tiny ticket that's perfect. Okay.
Handwriting in general, I think, is another thing that people can tell a lot of
That's
who a
right. And I
person
was
is.
absolutely convinced that they went to a class to do it, because there was no way that you just know how to do this. I thought they all had to go to the same class. And he said, no, it's just, I didn't even know we did it. Other people do it? And yeah. So the law enforcement guy, sheriff, came in to lose some weight. Now I can hypnotize and train somebody to lose weight in 20 minutes. They booked for a session. They're going to get at least an hour. If they get less than an hour, they're going to feel like they're getting ripped off. Okay. So I've got to fill that time. Now, again, clinically, what I need to do, I can do in 20 minutes or less. Okay. Because I'm good at it and I've been doing it 1,000 times and it's not a problem for me. But I can't wrap up a session in 20 minutes because, again, people feel like they got ripped off. So I got to fill that time. So this guy, I remember making some small talk and kind of going into other areas to try to fill the time and give him opportunity to talk about other things. And in about 10 minutes of that, he said, listen, I get a sense of what you're trying to do. You're trying to, make me feel more welcome and all that. He goes, it's not necessary. I'm just here to lose weight. All right. So that's all I want to do. And if we're done with that, it's okay. The session will be short. I'm totally okay with that. And again, only a sheriff or law enforcement guy would have this kind of attitude, right? And it was like, cool, thanks. Awesome. If you
Practical,
want
to the
more, it's
point.
your, you paid for the, he goes, look, I'll just pay. I'm paying for
Don't
it.
waste my time.
Yeah. And that's a sheriff mentality, right? Which is, again, very different from LAPD mentality, because I dealt with them too, and some military and et cetera. So everyone's different. Again, the point is, as we talk about suggestibility today, that if you know what type someone is and what percentage of them they are, then you can persuade and influence people like never before. And again, it's not about persuading and influencing in the general term. That's a buzzword that I'm using for clicking and getting some attention, all this and all that kind of stuff. Of course, what I'm really trying to do is can teach people how you can make harmonious relations with everyone by knowing suggestibility. And that's what it did for me. In my practice, you know that your standard number of sessions between a patient, client, and therapist is 2 to 4 sessions. That's about it before people move on. My clients came to me for years. Literally, I became surrogate family member to many families for years, not because I didn't solve their problem, because they always had new problems. They kept coming because they knew that I was the go-to source, that I would figure things out, that I would treat them like people.
Why are people only doing 2 to 4 sessions?
Because they realize therapists, most of them are full of shit. I got everything they can give to me. I mean, same when I go to a teacher or go to a classroom like that, again, I'm a very quick student. So once I get what they have to give, then I'm like, okay, what do I need to come here for? I've got everything. Yeah. I'll give you another example of that personally. I had another woman that actually knew this young man that I'm talking about. They're actually got to know them together through each other, through their families. And she's same way. She came to me when she was about 16, 17 years old, anxiety, some very serious issues. And she and I worked together off and on for years. Now, she really did need the kind of help. Wonderful girl. And then after a while, we switched to seeing each other every couple of weeks. I mean, I watched her go through the last years of high school, graduate, go out, get a job, get into the world, get into her career. It was wonderful to see that. And we're seeing each other a little bit less. And at some point, she says during it was our last session, she says, I'm getting a little teary eyed. It was such a sentimental thing. She said, I don't need to come here anymore, do I? And I said, no, you don't. I'm not going to say her name, but I'm tempted to. And I said, listen, you've been with me for so long. What I've been doing this entire time is training and teaching you how to think for yourself, how to think and apply problem solving the way that I've taught you. And I've taught you by example. I've shown you, not just lectured you. I've shown you. So all you need to do from now on is, if you want me, I'm a text away. I will see you. We will sit down on the internet, whatever. I'm here for you through your entire life. And you know that. But the reality is, no, you don't, because you pretty much know what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. You've been with me for like 8 years. You know me. I've given you everything I have to give. And so therefore, when you are stuck on a problem, ask yourself, what would Scott say here? What would he advise me to do? And she goes, I do it all the time. She goes, I tap in, you're like in my head all the time. And so all the time I'm thinking to myself, what would Scott say here? All right? You've done it too, haven't you?
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
even done it when I've avoided stuff, because I knew that if I,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
brought
yeah.
something up,
Oh, yeah.
that it would be addressed.
That's right. And there's that other man that had said to me, I'm going to know what I'm going to do what you tell me to do, because it just ends up happening. And he's the one that said to me in one of his final sessions, he said, he called me up with some big complicated issue, and some urgent issue, and I began to explain to him, and he goes, Scott, hold on. Because look who you're talking to. You know me, man. I've known you a long time. You don't need to explain all the roundabouts. Just tell me what to do. I already know you know. Just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. I'm like, thank God, we'll save a lot of time that way.
We had this conversation with Courtney with the New Year's resolution revolution, and she said she'd been thinking about contacting you for a while, and then you reached out to her, and she and I had a good laugh about how how we know that you're gonna call us out, and basically we can't avoid our own problems, so we have to be
That's right.
ready to deal with them by the time we bring them up.
I have this innate style. Not only do I want you to think that with the ideas I'm giving you are your own ideas, that's essential. I need to lead you to them, not tell you what they are. I need to lead you to them so you arrive at them on your own. And then also, indeed, I also use guilt and shame. I get clients and people to admire and respect me so much, again, to think that I'm virtually a family member, because I do care a lot, as you know. I want them to see me with admiration and love and affection, because that way, if they don't do what I'm telling them, they're going to feel bad about it. They're going to feel like they're letting me down. Now, that has a downside too, because there's occasional, and you were one of them once, somewhat recently, they don't tell me things because they don't want me to know. I didn't want you to, literally would say, I don't want you to think bad of me. So I didn't tell you that. I'm like, you didn't tell, that was a big thing. I am your counselor. I need to know everything. How can I help you if you don't tell me? I know, but.
No, I didn't want to change it yet.
Right. Well,
That
that's part of
too.
it too. That's the main part of it. But some of it also is that's layered in. Well, I respect Scott so much, and I look up to him, and I don't want him to look down on me. I don't want him to know this. Look, we all have that. We all have our defense mechanisms. Things we don't want to share about people that we'd be embarrassed about, right? And of course, that varies from person to person. If it's a casual, somebody that I don't even know, I'll be like, I don't give a fuck what you know about me, right? But somebody that I know really well, again, that changes the paradigm.
Absolutely.
And
I
I
will
had to
tell the
learn.
stranger everything about myself.
That's right. And listen, it has been real challenging at times to make sure that my clients who respect me so much that they're honest with me because they don't want me to think badly of them. The stuff they didn't disclose, I ended up finding. And I said, "Why didn't you tell me this?" Because, I look up to you and I didn't want you to look down on me. And I'm like, and again, I can't have both. I rely on gaining their respect and admiration because only if we respect and admire somebody will we do what they say and follow their advice, right? Consider the source. I've got people that an ex-girlfriend comes to mind, and anything she would say to me, I wouldn't just take it with a grain of salt. I'd take it with a pound of succotash because I'm like, anything that she says is bullshit. Everything that she ever said to me, she always knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's going to get you tickets, solve this, fix that, repair that, whatever. She always knows somebody. One of those people that always knows somebody. She doesn't know anybody, right? And so I learned to listen to that person. And again, as a reliable source. My rapport with people. When I say I'm telling everyone that's listening to this. Your rapport with people is reliant upon what they think of you and how they see you. Again, as a parent, respect and admiration, not just an authority. You can't just be the law. Your kids will do that to get out of trouble, do what you say to stay out of trouble, but they're not going to follow your advice or follow your footsteps. They're going to defy it. They're going to reject it. They're going to rebel against it, as a matter of fact. So if you want them to conform to what you're trying to teach them, your children, your friends, your family, your lovers, your neighbors, your acquaintances, anybody, then you've got to appeal to them on a way that they want to listen and they want to accept what you're telling them. Suggestibility does that because you're packaging what you're telling them in ways that their subconscious mind will accept rather than reject. That's what it all comes down to is suggestibility. We're packaging what we're explaining, what we're exporting from ourselves in terms and ways their subconscious mind will accept rather than reject. Hypnotherapy, the process of induction, breaks down the conscious mind, which is only 12%, goes through that and accesses the subconscious mind so that it begins to accept. That's all it's about. You're putting the conscious mind to a state of dormancy, and that gives access to the subconscious mind. Yeah, I know it's kind of eerie. But keep in mind, what hypnotherapy and suggestibility does is it only puts the 12% to dormancy. The rest of it's alive and well and thriving. And that's what we're talking to. Suggestibility allows that. We don't choose to be inferential or literally suggestible. We're conditioned by it from our early on age, from a very young age. By the time we're 9 years old, we're either inferential or literal, and that's going to continue to grow. We can change it. We can do the work and change it too, but most people aren't even aware of it. They just develop this way. And again, we've all met some of this very literal, some of this very exact and precise. They can be rather annoying, almost geeky and nerdy, right? We all know people like this, and they don't say anything any other way. You're not going to get them to change much. Again, then there's these people that are inferential, so inferential that no matter what they say, you're kind of like, I feel like I'm constantly warring with the world around me. I got to say, what? What do you mean by that? I don't want to say, what do you mean by that? I don't want people to say that to me. And that's why I will say the same thing 2 times, 3 times maybe, because I don't want anybody to say, what do you mean by that? That by the time they say that and then they go back and explain it, I can just give it to them 3 other ways. It's simpler. And again, so you will see if you pay attention as you watch my orations, I will tell you literally the way things are, and then I will tell you inferentially, and then I'll do several in between that blend them together. Because again, while many people will get all of them and be annoyed that I'm going over them, many people will only get 1 or 2 or 3 of them. Bottom line is, I've got to get into your subconscious mind to take purchase, to latch on, to be accepted by your subconscious mind. Otherwise, it's a waste of breath. Literal and inferential. Well, these are quite literal terms, aren't they? Literal is very exact and precise. Inferential is inference. What do you mean by that? We gave an example earlier on when we first talked about this, that if somebody asked me to dinner and I say, sure, what time you want me there? And I tested this with you and you said, as an example, you said around 7:30. And I didn't feed that. And I simply said, what do you mean around? You see, 7:30 is a literal term. Around 7:30 is a very inferential term. So I'll give you a very basic example of the difference between literal and inferential. The literal person will literally just say, dinner's at 7:30. And the inferential person will say around 7:30. And the person who hears literally, that causes a rupture, that causes a fuse to blow. They're like, what do you mean around? What? I don't understand that. And so he asks, what do you mean around? And the inferential person that said that is like, what do you mean? God, why are you annoying me? Like, it's just around 7:30. Like, what the fuck? Right? Now we have tension and misunderstanding because neither one knows what the other one's saying. I don't even know why they're feeling it.
So you can hear differently than you're speaking?
And so here's the real trick. Many people hear inferentially and speak literally. Many people hear literally and speak inferentially. The opposites. Most people are one of each. They either speak literally and hear inferentially or vice versa. And fewer people speak and hear in both styles.
One or the other.
Right. Very few
Okay.
people speak and hear literally. Those who hear literally usually speak inferentially and vice versa. So this makes things even more confusing. Now,
It does. That makes it very confusing.
You want to know why there's so many misunderstandings and violence and all kinds of crap in the world? This is exactly why. Suggestibility
No
would
one knows what
solve
anyone's saying.
80% of the conflicts in the world would be solved by understanding suggestibility. Because what happens is this: when you know it, when I know that I'm speaking to an inferential person, which I gave the example earlier when we first introduced this topic, I've traveled many times to India, and I told you in the Indian community, they're very inferential. When they say dinner's at 7:00, it could be 7:30 or 8, maybe even 9:00, but it ain't going to be 7:00. And when you show up at 7:00 thinking the dinner's at 7:00, they're literally like, what the is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing here? They're not even close to ready. Okay. This is their culture. They're very inferential. Okay. Now, and I mentioned to you that literally, you can say this without anybody taking any offense. When they say dinner's at 7:30, I could say to them, as a Westerner, even as an Indian, I could say to them, do you mean Indian 7:30? Do you mean real 7:30? And they're not offended by that because they know that this is a big part of their culture. And they will chuckle and say, oh no, I mean Indian 7:30, which means maybe 8:00 or later. You don't know. You just don't know. I don't know how they operate, the country operates, but that's how they are. So
It was kind of like that in Kenya too. Or island time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Island time. Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Island time. That's been a long time since I heard that term. That's right. When you're in Hawaii. Yeah. Island time. Yeah. And again, so the trick is to be able to identify which one's which. Now, again, if I'm giving a workshop to several people or I'm talking to people that I don't know which one they are, I got to cover the bases. I got to speak in both terms, and I got to risk annoying them because I got to make sure they get it the way that they're going to be able to follow it. It's challenging, but again, it's fun. Now,
How do we identify?
well, and again, identify has become this kind of that's an inference term that means how to identify is how we choose to identify. And again, you don't choose to be literal inferential. You're conditioned to be one or the other. And again, by percentages.
That's not really what I meant.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have no idea what you mean.
So I meant, how do we identify someone else being one or the other?
See, but you weren't clear on that. You weren't literal.
See, I wasn't.
You left that little part out, and I inferred what you meant was.
I leave a lot of words out
identify. But listen, that was a great example. You said how do we identify, and you weren't literal enough. You didn't say how do we identify someone as literal inferential. You didn't say that. So you said how do we identify. And so I inferred that what you meant was how do people how do they choose their identity with this? That was my inference. So you spoke an inference and I heard an inference, and it was completely wrong.
Right? And then we got lost in translation.
That's right. And
not enough information.
This was a great example of how the system breaks the fuck down. Now, but you can also see with something trivial that it can be repaired very quickly and easily too. And again, what happened there is you saw that I was answering a question you didn't ask.
Yeah, I also asked the question based off of something you said, which I don't think is what you meant to begin with.
Right. So you see, again, what needs to happen is when we're not getting the answer to the question that we asked, then we need to rephrase the question in the other term. If we need to think about it for a moment and say, did I ask that literally and inferentially? Well, it looks like I asked that inferentially. Maybe I should ask it literally and see if I get the same answer or the different answer, the one that I'm looking for. Now, is this a Herculean, irritating pain in the ass that's circuitous? Indeed, but it's far less consuming of time and effort than it is to have the misunderstanding go again and again and again, repeating itself.
And
Take
have
Pick your
emotions get
poison.
high.
Yes, pick your poison. Do you want to be irritating because you're asking the same thing or saying the same thing in different ways to people? Or do you want, in the long run, you're going to save time? Save yourself the trouble. When you're not getting the answer you want, it's because you're not asking the right question the right way for that person.
So there's a way to identify someone, what they are, because if you feel like you're bumping up against,
There you go.
then you have to rephrase and
That
you
is the
rephrase your
main
question.
way you can identify with somebody, whether it's what somebody is, by simply that if it's not going smoothly, then try something else. That's it. Try the other one. Rather than stop and analyze, am I being inferential or literal, which again is a bit of a step, but as you get better at this, you can do it instantly and very quickly. I mean, I can do it in a moment. I don't have to like sit and think, well, how did I phrase that? I don't have to do that. I can quickly just automatically do it because I've been doing it for a long time. Practice makes perfect. So again, it's an extra step. But yes, the way to identify and the source of the problem when things are communicating well is because you're not getting the information you're asking. And what people generally do is they say the same thing, maybe louder. I'm asking you. It doesn't matter how loud you fucking say it. They didn't understand you the first goddamn time. It's the words you're using. It's the
It's like
concept.
asking what.
That's right.
When you say what, are you repeating yourself or are you rephrasing?
That's right. And so I gave the example earlier, and it's also in my book when I talk about suggestibility. It's in 2 of my books. That the woman I was involved with, she worked up the street from me, and she calls me up from my office and she says, "Can you come pick me up today? I need a ride to my car." And I said, "Oh, okay, no problem." She dropped her car for the shop to get some maintenance repair. And I said, "Okay." And so I went up to pick her up. She got in the car, and as we started to drive down the boulevard, I said, "Where's your car?" She said, "Turn up here." Now, I'm going up a hill and I'm approaching an intersection, okay? She says, "Turn up here." Turn up here. And and the time is running out. I'm going to be at that intersection. I need to know, am I turning it there? Am I turning this driveway right here? What does she mean? And I simply said, "Where's your car?" I did not ask for directions. I'm asking a literal question. She's giving me an inferential answer. She's inferred that I want directions. And I don't. I'm asking, "Where's your car?" Because I know I already calculated that I think I know where the car is. There's an auto center back where we live, as most places out. And we figured it was at the dealership. So I could either go down the road that I'm on, which was actually called McBean Parkway, or I can turn right and go down this other route that's a long circuitous route that can be very trafficy, depending on the time of day. I don't want that route. I don't want to turn right here. Okay? I'm asking where's your car is so I can choose which way to go during the time of day that it's at. Okay? And so I said it again, "Where's your car?" She said, "Turn right here." And I'm getting to the intersection. I'm like, oh my fucking God, I need an answer right. And so I shouted, "Where's your car?" She said, "Turn right here," she yelled at me. All right? Now we're in an argument.
Yes.
Now we're yelling at each other. And I said, and I slowed down and I said, "Dear, I'm asking you where geographically your car is so I can find my own way to get there." I had to say all that. She said, "Oh, it's at the dealership." I said, "Okay." Then I went the way that I wanted to go. Now,
On paper, I hear that and I think that's so silly. You asked something, she said something else. I can see myself in that situation doing the same thing as her.
it's not unusual. She don't do anything wrong. And what I'm doing wrong is I keep repeating the same question in a louder voice. She clearly doesn't understand me. I'm getting the wrong answer to a simple question. So therefore, rather than call her stupid and have an argument about it, why not simply rephrase the fucking question? And so again, then when I finally said, "No, dear, I want you to explain to me where is your car? Is it at the dealership? Is it at a shop? Where is it?" Then she was like, "Oh, it's at the dealership." Right?
have these
Problem solved.
scenarios all the time, and my husband and I will
That's right.
will be like Wheel of Fortune, where they totally enunciate and say things super clear, and that's the joke we turn it into, is we just, like, yell it really loud
Yeah, and
and
that's right.
clear, but that doesn't help.
Now, again, what happened was this. I asked a literal question, but she heard me inferentially. I literally said, "Where's your car?" And she interpreted it. She inferred that what I was asking was for directions. I didn't say give me directions, did I? So literal-minded people are like, well, he's fucking right. And she's out of her mind. But inferential people are like, I don't see what the big deal is. She's not wrong either. She's not right, but she's not wrong either.
It's
Okay?
just a communication breakdown.
That's right. And listen, don't even bother trying to figure who is right or wrong. It doesn't matter. I'm going to miss the fucking turn. I got to get an answer to this. I got to figure this problem out right now before I'm caught on the wrong road. Right? So, yeah, never mind all that. Who's right and who's wrong. No one's right and no one's wrong. It's different communication styles, inferential and literal. I asked her a literal question because that's my style. She inferred that I meant for direction. So she gave me a literal answer. She spoke literally and she heard inferentially. Turn right here. She didn't say, well, go a little while. She wasn't inferential in her answer. Her answer was very literal. Turn right here.
Yeah.
So she heard inferentially, but spoke literally. So you see? I spoke literally, and
I do see.
because I'm trained in both, I don't count. You can't judge my perception of these things at all because I'm not a good source, because I'm trained in both. So I can switch back and forth between literal and inferential at will, and I'm not confined by either one of them anymore because I studied them for so long. I'm a rare anomaly that way, but no one else is going to be like I am. It doesn't make
Well,
me better.
does
Huh?
anybody speak both and think both? Think sometimes literal, sometimes inferential, and speak sometimes literal and speak sometimes inferential.
We all have percentages. I'm close to the 50-50 mark because I've been studying it off and on throughout many years of my life. It's a percentage. So, for example, someone might be a 70% literally suggestible person. That means they'd be 30% inferential. Okay. So again, same with ENP. We talk about physical and emotional personalities. Nobody is all one or the other. Everyone is a blend. The deal is, as a counselor and as a friend and as a lover and as a whatever, you want to know what percentage they are. How much of this do they want to need? Okay. This
Can't that vary based off of the situation?
varies, and it can bounce around. But let's not don't overcomplicate things for people right now. This is Suggestibility 101. All right. We're gonna get to the higher levels, but we're beginning in 101. To understand the percentages, first of all, the way to do that is take the questionnaire. That's for free on the website. You can download it. Okay. You got to put your email in, and once you send me your email, I'll send you the forms, and you're going to be able to have the questionnaires that would determine your sexuality and your suggestibility. Both of them. They're easy and quick, and we're going to go to those. I'm going to go to the questionnaire right now, the suggestibility ones, right now.
So one doesn't necessarily determine the other. If we are an emotional, it doesn't mean we're literal or inferential, or does it?
That is a bit of a mystery. I also look for that, and John Kappas didn't elaborate too much on that are physical personalities more likely to be literal or inferential. He goes into that a little bit. I can tell you that physical sexual people have a tendency to be more inferential. My partner at that time, she's a physical person. She's a physical, I'm emotional. Okay. So the NP version, she's a physical, and so more physicals have a tendency more inferential than literal. Emotionals, because they're very logic driven, they have a tendency to be more literal in their articulation. Did I answer that question? Now,
Yeah.
did you notice I said, does that answer your question? Because I'm giving you the chance. Did I hear that right? Did I answer that? And again, it's not that I answered your question right. Did you hear it right? I don't know. Did you take it in literally inferentially? I don't know. So I'm checking. So rather than say, well, do you get me, stupid? I'm saying, do you understand that? And so that's my style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will often say while I'm presenting, I will stop and say, do you understand that? Okay, it's a very
I say, does that make any sense? Did I just make any sense?
Yeah, but see, and that you got to be careful because there's a slight tone in that says, are you fucking stupid?
I've explained something, and I'm like, did that make sense?
Did that make sense? Is okay. Did that make sense to you? Becomes accusatory.
Okay.
Now you see the subtle
How
difference?
about, did I make any sense?
Everything should be I statements. To avoid any blame or any of those kind of conflicts, make everything I statements. I'm not sure I understand you. Not you don't make any sense. I'm not sure I get that. Matter of fact, that's what I say to clients all the time. Rather than say you're not making any sense, which is what I want to say because they're in a manic state, whatever, they don't make any fucking sense at all. Instead, I say, I'm not sure I understand. Can you restate it to me? Okay. What I'm thinking inside is, oh my God, you are wacky, crazy, manic. You are not making any sense at all. But I can't say that. That's rude and it's not productive. Instead, I say, I'm not sure I understand that. I make it seem like it's my fault. I didn't quite get
Well,
that.
that's problem solving too. And it's
That's
like
right. But again,
taking ownership and accountability.
look at how rarely people apply this. As I say it, it seems obvious, but you're
It's
not
hard to
thinking.
do,
It's hard to do. It's hard
especially
to,
when we get emotional about
that's right.
stuff.
It's hard to think of in the moment. It's hard to do. And again, I'm giving you all the skills so you to apply them. Again, this is, as we say, did that make any sense? Or am I making sense? That's the correct way to do that. And what I will do as a counselor, because I've only got a certain amount of time with people in their sessions, I've got to be very clear and I got to make sure they get what I'm teaching them, because if they don't, some of the stuff that I'm dealing with can cause crisis, trauma, death. I mean, we're talking overdoses. I mean, I'm dealing with some very sensitive and very dangerous subjects as a counselor. I'm not crisis proof. I'm not dealing with just general self-improvement. And so what I will say as I explain something is I will ask somebody, does that make any sense to you? Do you understand that? Which I can do because I'm in the authority position. Okay, this isn't a social thing. So I can somewhat be accusatory. So I can say, does that make any sense to you? Then when they say yes, how many times do you say to your child, don't do this? And you say, do you understand me? And they say yes, and they go do it. And then they look at you and say, well, I didn't understand you. What do you mean? You said you understand. Of course, everyone's going to say yes when you have to understand me because they think they do. Instead, what I say is this. Okay, great. Would you mind repeating it back to me? Now, if I bark that, again, as a counselor in a position of authority, I can get away with that. In a social context, that's going to be very condescending. But you got to find a way to be able to say to people, I'm not sure I understand that. Can you repeat that? Or then when you say something to them, say, well, does that make any sense? Tell me what you just heard me say. You
Well, and the
find
other
a
thing
way.
people can do is say, yes, it does. Can I say that back to you to make sure it did?
As
And
a
then you
matter
can
of
take
fact,
responsibility for
that's exactly
yourself.
what I do. Is I say to people, let me repeat it back to you, make sure I understand what you said.
Yeah, you
Because
do
let me
all the
tell you,
time with
all the
me.
time. And again, you don't even notice it too much, but
I do.
and again, sometimes
More
it can
on
be
like
very,
the production things.
and that's right. And it can be very annoying, but again,
Yeah.
and so I will say, repeat it back to me, because I'll tell you, I try to put a percentile on this. It's a lot. I've learned early on in my career as a counselor that what I'm going to hear back is rarely what I fucking said. Okay. It's close. It's 30%. This part was correct. That part was correct, but the middle parts weren't. Okay. And that can make all the difference in the world, because the bottom line is there's no almost in horseshoes and hand grenades. You either get it right or you don't.
Never heard that one before.
You haven't heard that? There's no
No, I haven't.
almost in horseshoes and hand grenades.
You either get it or you don't. I get it.
That's right. So when people repeat things back to me, I've got to know, because then I can say, okay, that's great, but let me repeat it back to you again. Let me explain. And say, yeah, that's right, but, and then I will find the two parts I didn't get right and fix that. Okay. And again, the thing is, the benefit is also because now I'm being redundant. Now I'm repeating it because we need the same information repeated to us again and again and again because we just don't listen. We need repetition. We need to repeat it again. So I'm redundant on purpose for that reason as well. I'm redundant because, yes, I know you heard it before, but you're not really taking it in yet. The ABC song. Do you know it?
Yes.
Yes. Sing me a bar. Sing me the ABC song.
A, B, C, D,
Okay, now
E,
wait.
F,
Now,
G.
when did you learn that?
When I was younger than my daughter.
3, 4 years
Probably.
old?
Yeah.
Right. And you remember it all this
Maybe
time, don't
younger.
you? You remember it all this time. Remember the exact order. Now, you really need does it need to be A to Z? Can we put the letters any way we want? It's still the alphabet. They're not numerical. And yet we all know the song, we know the order. And if you sing it out of order, somebody's gonna stop you and go like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? What do you mean A-Z? It's A-B. What does it matter? I've got all 26 of them in there. What the fuck does it matter what order they're in? And But we're all like, no, that matters, man. Like, don't do that shit like that. That's going to make me crazy. You can't, you got to sing. And so again, the point is that you know this, you know the order and you know the song because you did it repeatedly again and again and again till it became fixed in your brain. Repetition, redundance.
Have you ever met someone who doesn't know that song? I heard recently
I'm
that
going
there
over
was
that. I'm
a gentleman who didn't know that song. I know, but it's
That's
amazing.
pretty crazy. You're going to get me sidetracked. All right. That is a freaky anomaly. I'd like to meet that person. I think the point is that we know this because of redundancy, because it was repeated to us again and again and again to the point where we all know it 30, 40 years later. We all know it like we learned it yesterday through repetition. The redundancy that I do is probably deliberate also because I know, again, people are going to be annoyed, but I'm making it because I know they need to hear this particularly. I'm talking about drug addiction and recovery and anxiety and depression and critical areas that are ruining people's lives. They can't just tell them when they go, oh, that's great, I get it. The lights go on, they have that watershed moment. I've learned that tomorrow they don't remember that happening at all. I can't tell how many times as a counselor I've had these watershed milestone moments in my office with people that are like, oh my God, I get it. Oh, working on something for weeks, several sessions. And then finally the lights go on. I can see like, oh my God, they're actually getting it. And sure enough, the very next week, it's like it never fucking happened. Okay. And I repeat it again just to be sure. And I can see when I do it, when they've had the watershed moment and I repeat it again the next week, then I can see, okay, no, they do get it now. Now it's part of their knowledge, like ABC, part of their knowledge, part of their identity. So the communication styles that we want to find ways to diplomatically repeat ourselves, be very redundant, and to be able to rephrase things in both styles or a blend of styles until one takes purchasing goes home for them. Now, giving you the clearest definition. Literal is quite literal, very precise, very exact. Inferential is what we think it means. That has some flexibility around it. Again, we want to assess this up. We don't know what everybody is. We don't need to. But let's go ahead and jump to the questionnaires. The suggestibility questionnaires are a lot of fun. The sexuality ones are too. Now, let's just jump into them. When you submit for the questionnaires from the website, I'm going to give you the questionnaires and the scoring and how it's done and why. So you're going to get the whole thing. Suggestibility questionnaire number 1. Have you ever walked in your sleep during your adult life? Don't answer them. I'm just going to put them out there. I want you to answer them inside your head. As a teenager, did you feel comfortable expressing your feelings to one or both of your parents? Number 3, do you have a tendency to look directly into a person's eyes and or move closely to them when discussing an interesting subject? I'm going to pause right there. Did you get that question?
Do you have a tendency to look directly into a person's eyes and or move closely to them when discussing an interesting subject?
Okay, what's your answer on that? Yes or don't explain, just yes or no.
I would say yes.
Okay. Do you feel that most people, when you first meet them, are uncritical of your appearance? Yes or no?
I assume everyone's critical of everyone all the time.
Okay. What did I see? I'm saying literally say yes or no.
I can't.
And what you heard inferentially was he wants me to explain my answer. And I said,
no, I just refused.
That's right. And that you refuse that because you have an inferential style and you reject anything else. This is where the communication breaks down. I asked you to literally answer just yes or no. Now,
I have a hard time. It takes me a minute to process things.
Because you're inferential. And this is the test. Now that's why I said I'm not going to let you answer them. We're just going to go over them. In a group situation with people you've just met, would you feel comfortable drawing attention to yourself by initiating a conversation? Do you feel comfortable holding hands or hugging someone you're in a relationship with in front of other people? PDA, public displays of affection. Okay, here's a cool one. When someone talks about feeling warm physically, wearing a sweater, a nice warm sunny day, feeling the sun on your body, do you begin to feel warm also?
I'm feeling warmer already.
Okay. Do you tend to occasionally tune out when someone is talking to you because you are anxious to come up with your side and at the time not hear what the other person has said?
Sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me tell you.
I try to work on listening.
That question, almost 90% of the people on the planet, if they answer honestly, would say yes, because no one is listening to what anybody else is saying.
It's really hard to listen. I'm working on it.
Do you feel that you learn and comprehend better by seeing and or reading than by hearing?
Seeing and reading. I need to read these at the same time as you.
That's fine. There you go. In a new class or lecture situation, do you usually feel comfortable asking questions in front of the group? When expressing your ideas, do you find it important to relate all the details leading up to the subject so the person can understand it completely? Do you enjoy relating to children? Do you find it easy to be at ease and comfortable with your body movements, even when faced with unfamiliar people and circumstances? Do you prefer reading fiction rather than nonfiction? If you were to imagine, close your eyes for a moment. Imagine putting a slice of lemon in your mouth. Imagine the texture of it in your tongue and in your mouth, and biting into it. Sour, bitter, juicy, yellow lemon. Does that make your mouth water?
Yeah, I'm having all sorts of facial expressions.
If you feel that you deserve to be complimented for something well done, do you feel comfortable if that compliment is given to you in front of other people? Going on, do you feel that you're a good conversationalist? Finally, do you feel comfortable with complimentary attention drawn to your physical body or appearance? Now, that is the 18 questions on questionnaire number 1 for suggestibility.
So we just sampled one.
That's right. That was question number 1. There's 2 of them, and they're not male or female. They're just 2 of them. One's for inferential, one's for literal. So question number 1, question number 2, I'm not going to tell you which ones. I don't want to blow the surprise. One of them is to test somebody for literal suggestibility. The other one is testing them for inferential suggestibility. Unlike the emotional and physical sexuality questionnaires, it's not gender specific.
But it has to do with the 2 types of communication styles.
And I'm not telling you which one. One of the questionnaires is to test for literal suggestibility. The other questionnaire is to test for inferential.
Okay.
Me, I see it right away. Probably because I know it, but I mean, to me, I'm like, well, obviously what I described with literal and inferential, how could you get them wrong? How could you not know? But that's, again, I'm trained with them. Now, understand this. As an therapist and as a counselor, in the early days, I would begin with these questionnaires. It was part of the induction. Part of the therapy induction is to ask these questions would help me induce a state of suggestibility within them, okay? So it's actually a part of the induction, a very essential part. I don't need to ask 18 questions. As a trained hypnotherapist, I can ask 2 or 3 of them, and I will know exactly what the suggestibility is. So I can usually 2, 3, maybe 4 of them. Even after a while, I'm not even doing it for that. I'm simply using it as a form of induction. Basically, what happens is this. Asking these questions, what I'm doing is I'm overwhelming your conscious mind. It may not seem like it, but in a subtle way, I'm overwhelming your conscious mind, which is causing your conscious mind to go dormant, to shut down. Okay? When you're overwhelming your conscious mind, it shuts down. It's what it is, which leaves your subconscious mind in control, which leaves it suggestible. So what I'm doing in these questionnaires as a form of induction is I'm literally using this to overwhelm your conscious mind, to lull it into a hypnotic suggestible state. I want the conscious mind to sleep. I want the subconscious mind awake and alert. If they're both asleep, they're somnambulistic, too deep. Trance-like state, too deep. I bring them up a little bit to get them out of that. I want the subconscious mind alert and aware. Now, questionnaire number 2 for suggestibility. When you submit for the questionnaires from the website, I'm going to give you the questionnaires and the scoring and how it's done and why. So you're going to get the whole thing. Have you ever awakened in the middle of the night and felt that you could not, now look at how different these are. Have you ever awakened in the middle of the night and felt that you could not move your body and or talk? Number 2, as a child, did you feel that you were more affected by your parents' tone of voice than by what they actually said? That is listen, if I'm going to ask no other questions, if I ask that one and I get a good answer and I get a real answer that I think is genuine, then that's pretty much all I need to know. Now, moving on. If someone you're associated with talks about a fear that you have experienced before, do you have a tendency to have an apprehensive or fearful feeling also? After having an argument with someone, do you have a tendency to dwell on what you could or should have said? Yes or no? Go ahead and answer that one. Yes or no?
Yes.
Nope. Now you're thinking, everyone say yes to that. That's kind of what I think too. Who doesn't? There are a bunch of people that know they don't. I'll let you guess which one. Are they literal and inferential?
Literal.
That's correct. That's correct. Do you feel self-conscious when attention is drawn to your physical body or appearance? Now, That question was on the other one, but it was framed in a very different way. If you had a choice, would you rather avoid being around children most of the time? See, now this one's
I'm
loaded.
so curious. Yeah.
This one's loaded because no one, even if they do feel that, no one wants to admit that to themselves. No one wants to say it out loud. So I would usually skip that question because no one's giving me an honest answer. Of course, I love children. I love animals. Of course I do. That's the politically correct thing to say. I would often skip that question because I'm not going to get an honest answer. Because everyone feels they need to say, I love being around children. And many people do not. But people feel socially they need to say that they like children and all that. So I'm not usually going to get an honest answer from that question.
I respect people when they're honest about that.
I'm not always going to get reliable answers on that. The people that I just met, they're not going to, oh no, I don't like children. No one's going to say that out loud to me when they just meet me. They're not going to say that.
We're all self-conscious. We want to be liked.
That's not what the question even asking you, but that's how people are going to infer about it.
So are they
Okay?
inferential?
I'm not telling you. Nice try. Do you prefer reading nonfiction rather than fiction? If someone describes a very bitter taste, do you have difficulty experiencing the physical feeling of it? So we had the other one we asked about the lemon. Now we asked about a bitter taste. Do you generally feel that you see yourself less favorably than others see you? Yes or no?
Yes. I think I'm highly critical of myself. Yeah.
That's right. I think that's an honest answer. I know you, and I know that that's something we've talked about, and I think that's healthy. Do you tend to feel awkward or self-conscious initiating touch, PDA, public displays of affection, holding hands, kissing, etc., with someone you're in a relationship with in front of other people? In a new class or lecture situation, you usually feel uncomfortable asking questions in front of the group, even though you may desire further explanation. Now, keep in mind, that same question was on the other questionnaire that simply said, do you feel comfortable? This one says, do you feel uncomfortable even though you want an answer, even though you want to ask? Do you feel uneasy if someone you just met looks you directly in the eyes when talking to you, especially if the conversation is about you? Yes or no?
If it's someone I just met looking me in the eyes, I'm okay with that because I think eye contact is important.
In a group situation with people you've just met, would you feel uncomfortable drawing attention to yourself by initiating a conversation? Final question. If you're in a relationship or are very close to someone, do you find it difficult or embarrassing to verbalize your love for them? Now, the loaded areas of this is that there is, through most of the question on both questionnaires, there is a more socially acceptable answer, the yeses or the nos. Again, this only works and is reliant upon transparency, personal transparency. Can we be honest with ourselves? Yes, I'll preface that in a session. Look, this only works if you're honest with me. Yo, I will be, no problem. Yes, I understand. Blah, blah, blah. Again, I've got to be able to intuitively sense whether they're going to be accurate or not. That doesn't mean that I'm going to check yes when they say no. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. These questionnaires are very accurate and very specific. Now, again, one is to determine literal suggestibility, one is to determine inferential. And I think as you learn, you can see which ones do which and why and how. Don't get me wrong. On its surface, questionnaire 1, the yes answers are going to be for one, either inferential or literal, and questionnaire 2, the yes answers are going to be for the other one. But there's some mix there. There's a couple of them that we're looking for no answers. Okay, so we're kind of mixing it up. Now, obviously, you can't go around to people you just met and give them these questionnaires. Hey, before we sit down and have lunch together, before I interact with you at the grocery store and you're going to check out my groceries, and before you interact at all, socially, whatever, I got to answer the 36 questions. We can't do that, and should not, and please don't.
Well,
But
what do we do if we're doing these at home with ourselves and we're not going to turn them back to you, or we're gonna fill out these questions? Then
right.
what?
But on the website where you can download these things for free, you can get these. You're going to get a scoring instruction as well. So you get the questionnaires. When you submit for the questionnaires from the website, I'm going to give you the questionnaires and the scoring and how it's done and why. So you're going to get the whole thing. Again, I'm not going to, in this session, in this podcast episode, I'm not going to explain the scoring exactly, because again, it's a lot of math. It's not complicated. It's easy to do. Very easy to do. It takes a few minutes to do. But again, I don't think this is the time or place for that in this discussion part. So
Are we drawn to people just like we're drawn to opposites in our partners for ENP? Are we drawn to opposites in terms of Suggestibility and communication style?
What do you mean? I'm playing with you. Good question. Are you being literal or inferential? I'm not sure what you mean. Now, and again, that's
'Cause I have the answers here from myself and my
so
husband from, like, a year ago, and we pretty much answered the same on the majority of them.
okay. On suggestibility?
Yep, he only did the one
Okay.
number 1. I think he
So
he was like, "Screw this, I'm done."
no. We are so we are sexuality, personality, emotional or physical, we are drawn to and are going to have healthy relationships with the opposite. Opposites attract. Not the same. Again, different discussion, but in a nutshell, two emotional personalities in a relationship, they're not going to have any dynamism. They're not going to have any challenges. They're not going to stimulate each other. It's going to be dull. Conflict is a spice of life. We do need some of that, not mass amounts. That's dysfunction. But without some conflict and some contrast between us, then things are boring. And again, as I mentioned, physical personalities, when they get together, there's only two physicals in a relationship, then they're competitive. They both want the attention, they both want the validation, and that doesn't work. Suggestibility, no. Someone who's inferential is not automatically drawn to someone who's literal, and vice versa. It works out that way, I can tell you. And again, it's a mixed bag of goods. The literal inferential style of communication that we are dominant in has to do with our upbringing and our development through our childhood. It is, while I said that indeed emotionals have a tendency to be, there's more literal minded emotionals than there are physicals. Physicals are definitely far more inferential. That's not a hard fact rule either. I've met many physicals that are very literal and many emotionals that are very inferential. And again, we speak one, hear the other. And some people do both. Some people hear and speak in inferences. And that's fine, unless they have a partner that hears and speaks literally. They're likely not going to get along as well. They're not going to be that drawn to each other. They're not going to synchronize very well. There's no gospel etched in stone rule that the opposites attract necessarily, the percentages are necessarily either. But we do want to be on the lookout. You go with who you are attracted to, go with what you're drawn to. Understanding suggestibility is not just about trying to find the right person, like does a Cancer go with a Capricorn? It's more about how to solve, resolve, and totally avoid misunderstandings and conflict. And I'd say misunderstandings. And as I said in the email blast, it's not about being understood. It's far more important in life to not be misunderstood. My style as a counselor, author, etc., speaker, etc. Again, the redundancy, the irritation, the annoyances that people can have with me because I speak a lot and I'm going on about things. It's because I'm desperately trying to avoid being misunderstood. It is tiny to be understood. Far more important to not be misunderstood. The conflicts in the world, what's going on all the time with people is they're being misunderstood. And they don't understand why. Again, literal people are like, are you stupid? Why can't you just answer? What is wrong with you? And in front of me, like, why are you attacking me? Like, what am I doing wrong? And when we accept that people have different styles and that neither one is right or wrong, then harmony can begin to take place. Then we can accept this person is different than me. Matter of fact, my partner, not only, don't get me wrong, in critical moments, I was very annoyed that I was literal, she was inferential, for sure, in those critical moments. But generally, I loved it. I loved the fact that she was different than me. Because between the two of us, we got the whole spectrum of the human experience. Things I would have missed out on. My son can be very inferential. My son's notorious for that. Hey, Brandon, you want to come for dinner? Yeah, sure. Okay. That's all he says. Okay. He won't ask me what time. What are we having? He won't even ask me that. That's how inferential he can be. I will say to him, okay, dinner's at 6:30. Are you down for, he knows I'm vegetarian. He used to be too. Are you down for blah, blah, blah? I'm covering the bases. He says, sure. Not, yeah, that sounds good, or change it. He just agrees. Okay. And I'm thinking everything's good. I've learned over time that when he says sure, that does not mean he meant actual, yes, I'm going to be there. He understood what time it was, what we're having, nothing. He hears and speaks in inferences, most instances, which is weird because he's a firefighter. And when on a fire, he's gonna be very literally minded. He's gonna be very little in communication. When he's delegating to people, he's a crew chief. He's got people that they has to delegate to constantly. He's gonna be very precise. With me, different situation because it's not a work relationship. It's not that kind of relationship.
Well, without getting too tangenty on this, do you think that, and not just to talk about your son, but even in myself, do you think sometimes a people-pleasing tendency can come about in us where we don't wanna be we don't wanna be high maintenance, we don't wanna be like, "Sure, whatever you want," like, like, "I don't really wanna make a choice."
Yes. Yes. To some degree, the inferential style speaking, exporting inferentially is indeed partly a way to be easygoing. And yes, absolutely. And again, the problem is, as my son again is a good example of that, he is not asking questions and researching or following up with this because he doesn't want to complicate it. It's to him is he's very much in the now, in the moment. He doesn't really care. That's a very physical personality characteristic and trait is being in the now, being in the present. They're not thinking about what they could or should have said afterwards after an argument.
That would
Emotionals
be
are.
relieving.
The physicals are very rarely thinking about what they could or should have said. It's in the past for them. They're far more in the present. Again, the physical personalities, in many ways, are enjoyable people to hang out with because they're not thinking about what was or what could be. They're in the moment. It's
That's so
annoying.
refreshing.
It can be, but it's also annoying when you're trying to plan something. You know, hey, I mean, I would tell my partner, I'd say, look, the movie's at 7:30. I'm going to pick you up at 6:30. I show up at his house at 6:30. She's not even dressed. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What does it matter? I'm like, well, it matters. The movie starts at a certain time. I get a ticket. Like, I can't change that shit, you know?
Yeah, that's out of my hands.
So, yeah, in many ways, the acceptance of being this way, the inferential people, the can be simply because they don't want to take things too seriously. That's a very physical trait. They're far more laid back. The emotions are the ones that get uptight. We're the ones, I say we because we're generally one too. And I definitely am. And so we're the ones that kind of need things to be, again, I'm thinking about what came first, what's coming after, what's happening now. I'm thinking about the whole spectrum. I'm time traveling all the time. Thinking of wide spectrum.
So much to manage. I'm
That's right.
and I take care of the household, I take care of the children, I take care of the planning. There's so
That's
much
right.
going on up here.
That's right.
So I understand that.
And this can create a lot of anxiety.
Yes, it can.
And
It's
listen,
exhausting.
the high inferential, they're not having that kind of stress. They're literally like, I don't know. I mean, it's not happening right now. What the fuck do I care? The high physical, not only do they have this very kind of chill attitude, that's great, but they're also not addressing things and they're making more work for me down the line. So as my son was not addressing these things because he's more relaxed about it, it's still got to be done. So I'm having to pick up the slack. So as my partner was not ready to go to the movies when I came to pick her up like we were supposed to be, I'm now sitting in the car starting to fume and stress because I'm sitting out there waiting. It doesn't go away. It just gets displaced. So even though a physical or influential person is not feeling that stress or feeling those kind of things, and vice versa for the emotionals and literals, it doesn't go away. It goes up in the stratosphere and it still stays somewhere and it's going to land somewhere. So while she's relaxed and level care about it, my son is too, I'm the one that's like, I mean, literally, when he and his fiance came to visit the wedding site that that's up here by me, they were going to come over. We're going to have dinner. So I made dinner. Okay. And I said, well, and I've learned from him, Brandon, what time about do you think you'll be around? I don't know. We got this. He's telling me all these things he has to do. He never answered my question. He went on for 10 minutes, but, well, we got to do this. And I did not ask you what you're going to be doing. I said, what time can I expect you around for dinner? Well, He goes on again about, well, I'm not getting anywhere near the answer. He's not even answering my question. I made dinner. That dinner sat on the stove and went and put in the refrigerator all night because it never even came. By the time I heard from him, several times I tried to stay in touch. By the time I heard from him finally, it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, dude, like, what's going on? He goes, oh, we decided to spend the night in Carmel. I'm like, thanks for letting me know. You know, literally, I was looking forward to the evening, had dinner planned, all this. I never knew it happens now.
It happens. We all know and experience these
So
things on all
he can
sides.
be he can be highly inferential. He's inferring that he's assuming that I understand that he's got all this stuff going on, that he can't pin anything down, and that if I'm making a big deal out of it, that I'm being anxious and neurotic. What do you mean with
So
time?
so instead of saying, "You know what? I can't actually commit, Dad, to making dinner because I have so much going on," he's just referring to all the things he's got going on.
That's right. And I don't know what
Okay.
any of that means. Well, Dad, we got to go here, we got to go there, and I'm like, what does that mean?
So I I'm asking this for the relationships that I have in my own life and the people that I know and love. Sometimes that can be a really frustrating scenario when someone says something. Are they just saying it to make you feel better or to pass it off or to be passive? Or is it they literally can't commit? And is it that they don't want to hurt your feelings?
And
And
listen,
so,
that but does
or is
that
this
matter?
something else?
If my son said to me, Dad, I can't tell you the answer, I don't know the answer to that, then I'm fine. At least that's an answer. I don't know the answer to that. He did not say, I don't know the answer. He said, I got all these things to do.
This kind of goes into this people pleasing thing. I've done some of this. I think in the dynamics between a parent and a child where you don't want to just say no to your parent. You say, no, I'm not going to do that because you think maybe you're hurting their feelings, or someone else.
Or you'll make
So
them angry.
you play both
You're probably hurting
sides.
them because you don't want to make them angry. That's part of the reason too. But yes,
Okay.
go on.
But doesn't it make it far more frustrating to never commit to something and push something off?
That's what I'm saying. Is
That
again,
that's just as
if he said
angering
to
than
me,
just being told no.
yes, if he said to me, I don't know, and if you need an answer, then just forget about it. At least I have an answer. So that's again, we got to meet both ways. Literal people got to meet halfway. Inferential people got to try to. The difference is this: literal people, usually when I explain to them, they can put in the time to meet halfway. Inferential people, not so much. They're mindless about it. They're just not focused on it. They're not thinking about it. That's what inference is. Inference is a roundabout. It's hypothesis.
This is so curious. I'm thinking about myself, I'm thinking about other people, and
Yes,
I'm
and that's
thinking, I don't wanna say something directly, but I might be thinking it directly in my head, or I could say that to somebody else, but maybe
well.
not to the
Keep in
person.
mind this session, this class. This is the starting point. Okay, obviously, my understanding and my ability to apply this, I've been at this for years. And again, I'm a very quick study. I'm polymath, I'm literal minded in many ways. And so I have some advantages. So even though it can take a long time to understand this, I did it fairly quickly and short because that's the polymath thing. Now, there's a jumping off point. I'm giving you the basics. And hopefully, what it's doing is it's intriguing and thinking like this is all accurate. It's worthwhile. It's got value. I want to know more. To expect or desire or require to be an expert right off the bat in an hour or two session, not going to happen. Again, what of value in life have you ever been able to master in an hour or two? What of value? Yes, you can master many things in an hour or two, but not anything of value. We're talking about communication, for God's sakes. We're talking about the way people import and export information and what their thoughts and feelings are. It's got to be worthwhile to invest the right amount of time to learn it properly and learn it thoroughly. Because again, the investment, the ROI. What I'm suggesting to you, suggesting with suggestibility, is that all that you're describing is being expressed in their styles of communication. That you don't need to know all those details because by the way they're speaking to you, you can already gather all that. You can infer it. You can get all that. So yes, ultimately I'm going to want to know the details of what happened to you in your life and all that. But honestly, to communicate with you properly and have a good time, have a good experience, and have harmony in our relationship, I don't need to. Because if I know what you're saying, how you're saying it, we're good. My son, as a firefighter, trust me, when he's on a fire and he's got 10 to 30 guys that he's got to direct and say, 3 clicks to the right, 5 clicks to the left. I mean, shit's on fire, you know? He can't miscommunicate, can't be misunderstood. He's got to be very precise. If he applied some of that in our communication, things would go a lot smoother. He has the ability. We all do. And what I'm suggesting here with suggestibility by learning it is that we get the benefit of being able to apply both and be able to mix it up. So we're not confined just to one. You can see through this discussion that being confined to one or the other at any time is going to be far high potential for conflict and stress and misunderstandings. By understanding that we have a wider band of tolerance, wider band of acceptance, and a wider spectrum of versatility between the two of them, can solve a lot of problems.
It feels like a lot of this is about maturity and taking accountability.
She said it, I didn't. I didn't say that.
And I mean, we all, no matter how grown up we are, we still have layers and levels of maturing, and
Yes.
having that, yeah, I have like my mother's voice in my head. It's about maturity.
But
And
see, what
she's
you just
right.
did is, this is the beauty of inference. You hear inferentially, and you're able to manufacture and process this in a profound way. Indeed, listen, as a counselor, families would reach out to me, bring me their kids. They won't clean their room. They smoke pot. They're not doing school, blah, 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 rebels and big pain in the ass. And then they would find out circuitously or by asking what our session content was about, what I would talk about them for an hour and a half in a session. They'd be like, "You didn't talk about drugs at all." I said, "No." "Why?" "Because what I'm paying you for." Say, "Listen, I am helping your child mature to adulthood. A mature adult person will not do drugs and do stupid shit. That's what maturity is about, being accountable. I'm not teaching them not just about drugs or this or that. I'm teaching them how to grow the fuck up, to be mature and have awareness, be mature, which is indeed to be aware and have the versatility and the capacity and the willingness to adapt to things and to be tolerant. That's what it's about. That's what it comes down to with communication. Again, by understanding, again, as we live in this woke generation of tolerance, which I'm all for until it gets what it is now, some kind of trendy, hyped up bunch of bullshit. I'm going to go to hell now for saying that, social hell.
No,
That,
you won't. I'm with you.
well, we won't be
I'll
in
go
hell
to hell
alone.
too.
No, we won't be in hell alone. Again, that what we see again and again and again, and I'm telling you on a grand scale, politically, socially, culturally, the conflicts, misunderstandings, so many things can be completely smoothed out when you find that people are really not opposed at all, that they don't realize that they agree. Listen, there's another example between father and son. I can't tell you how many times I've had arguments with my son and I'm realizing, oh my God, we agree. Like I'd suddenly go, oh my, holy shit. We're arguing vehemently about something we agree on. We think we disagree.
Yeah.
And then I would back in and I'd say, do you realize? And I'd wait for them to calm down. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm telling him. I'm like, no, we're agreeing the entire time. And we're having this big heated argument because we're presenting it.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. So
You don't
again,
realize you're talking about the same thing because
yeah,
you're saying and processing things in a different manner.
that's it. It's simply, again, a version, but the same truth.
But we get stubborn and stuck in this space.
I'm right, you're
And
wrong.
so,
I'm
yeah.
right, you're wrong. Why am I right? Because these are my thoughts. My thoughts are correct. I arrived at them. And again, we got to keep things in the 101 area for suggestibility today. And that is, again, that bottom line is this. By understanding E and P and understanding suggestibility, inferential and literal, it has the potential to make all relationships harmonious, all of them, across the board, around the world. The potential, it's all in there. With what I'm teaching today and by understanding it, you don't have to analyze, you don't have to be able to take a test. That's not the point. Because the bottom line is, I've already embedded stuff into your head. Anyone that's watching and listening to this, it's embedding into your head. I'm doing it in such a way that will make you think, and it's going to make you reframe, reconsider the way you're interacting with people going forward. You'll be more conscious and aware of it on some level. And that's all that matters. I'm simply trying to set the domino in motion. And whether you learn more or not, by being conscious of it, by being aware, as I said, go people watching at the mall to determine whether people are physical or emotional. Because what it does, it makes you more aware, accepting, and tolerant of the people that are not like you. Because not only do you see that they're different, I don't like people that are different. I want people to be like me. I mean, I got it all figured out. Like my politics, my philosophy, my religion. I got it all. I know it all. And you don't know shit if you're not like me. Obviously, clearly, you don't. And so
If
what it
everybody
does,
thought like me, we all get along.
that's right. And it would be a very dull place. And so again, what's happening is by seeing they're different, because of ENP and suggestibility, I can see why. And again, it used to be humanity I love, it's people I can't stand. And now it's humanity I can't stand. The massive consciousness and global thinking is polluted, toxic, and rogue. It's a mess. But people themselves, when I see who they are and why they are the way they are, why a physical is the way they are, why a literal inferential person is that way, what they're doing and what they're trying to get to, suddenly I'm like, you know what? I don't mind. As a matter of fact, I can kind of enjoy it.
Compassion, empathy, and understanding can come
Which
in.
is maturity. That's what
We
maturity
all
is.
gotta grow up.
Well, you got to grow. Again, as a counselor, what I would say in my business card, if I could, is I'm not an addiction specialist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a crisis counselor. I am a man that helps people grow the fuck up. Literally, and inferentially, and especially inferentially, I am somebody that helps people grow the fuck up to be more mature and accountable. What is accountable? Accountable is having self-awareness and outside awareness. To not be oblivious to your circumference of reality. To be conscious of it. I don't like people, literally don't like people that are oblivious to others around them, that cut you off in traffic, whatever, because they're just not paying attention. Okay? I get it, you made a mistake. But that's because you don't pay attention, because you think you're the only person in this world. Every once in a while, we all have those moments. But there are many people that live in that moment. They're oblivious. They're not even trying to be aware that beyond their circumference. That's what I don't like. I don't mind if people make mistakes. I can more than tolerate that. As a matter of fact, I might get upset when I see when I, flip somebody off in traffic with them cutting me off, and then when they say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," suddenly I feel bad, right?
Yeah. We all make mistakes. It's what you do with it.
I'm not like, "Yeah, you should be." No, I'm like, "Oh, now I feel shitty." I went
Yeah.
right to flipping you off when you simply made a mistake and you're
That
aware of it and you're
softens everything.
apologizing.
When mistakes happen and it's what you do with it. It's
That's
how
right.
you pick up the pieces afterward.
Which is be accountable. Be responsible for it. Be accountable. Acknowledge it. Try to change it in the future. Become a better person every chance you get. And by understanding communication, we have that opportunity to do that. That our way is not the right way. It is just one of ways. Again, this woke world of tolerance and blah, 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 that's the philosophy of it, is to accept that my way is not the only way, not necessarily is the right way. Again, inferential and literal. As a more literally minded person, it's tempting for me to say one's correct and one's not. As I said, on paper, literal communication seems more correct, but it's not. And I'm not just saying that. Inferential is equally as valuable and equally as necessary as literal. They both need to be present. What we want is to try to get as close to 50-50 as we can. We'll never do it. We can't do it. It's not possible for human minds to do it. And again, same with emotional, physical. The perfect person is 50% physical, 50% emotional. Doesn't exist. Generally, people are in the 80 percentile of one or the other. My job as a counselor by introducing EMP is to bring them closer to the middle, getting towards 60, 40, if I can get them that far, depending on their dysfunction, depending on their past traumas, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with suggestibility. When I meet couples in conflict, and I mean people that are literally, when they come, by the time they call me, they're like, I'm already filing for divorce. Like, that shit's over. Can't stand that person anymore. We can't get along. Usually one of them has hit that level by the time they reach out to me as a counselor. And I begin teaching them about suggestibility. It changes things almost overnight. I can't tell you, whew, feels so good. I can't tell you how many relationships I've saved from ruin that not only did they stay together, but said to me years later, out of nowhere, sent me an email or a text or a phone call, and somebody said, hey, you may not remember me, but me and my husband, we came in and blah, 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 and you taught us, and we just want to say thank you. We're still together. We're very happy because of what you taught us. I tell you, it's applicable. We can use it. We can gain from it. By using it, we can not only salvage relationships, we can make great ones. We can have harmony. And it's actually an easy way to avoid the problems. It's not something you have to sacrifice. It makes it more fun, more fascinating, more interesting. Instead of sacrificing and selling out, it's the opposite. We change things and modify, and we can begin to have more fun and more well-rounded experiences, more fulfilling. Let's kind of wrap it up there. I think that's a good positive note.
Yeah.
So communication is absolutely critical. Is what suggestibility is all about. Go to the website, scottspacky.com/pry open. And on the blog it says right at one of the blog posts, suggestibility and emotion and sexuality questionnaires here. And so rather than a blog, it's got a brief introduction to it, and you can go down there, you can enter your email, and you can get the forms. Okay. Now, I will also put that as a separate thing. So as more blog posts take place and that gets buried down, I will create a new tab up there on that page where you can simply go get the forms. Okay. And they're on me. If you want guidance, training, counseling in these areas, accelerate the time of it, accelerate your growth in this. Again, no matter what I can present to you in a podcast episode or what the questionnaires can provide to you is a shadow of what I can present to you when working with you in a customized way as a unique individual person. Working with a physical and working with a literal person is 90 different than working with an inferential emotional person. And again, my job is to bring them from one extreme towards the middle. And that's what accountability and maturity is all about, right? So let's wrap it up. Thank you, as always, for those who tune in, for joining us with Pry Open Your Third Eye. I hope your third eye got pried open a little bit today. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, join the conversation. You don't have to be actually on. You can just throw out an idea through email. If you want to come on and you don't want to be in the video, you can just be in audio. You can be a no-name person. But if you want to have a conversation, it's fun. Come join us. So,
Yeah, that's what we're here for. I mean, everyone's welcome. And again, I'm not looking for celebrities or professionals, so to speak, so-called everyday people. I don't want to say common, but everyday people. That's what matters. I want everybody to have a voice. And I think that that's what this is doing for both of us and for other people that have been on so far, is giving them a voice. Not everybody. A lot of people do not want to know what's on their mind at all. I want them to shut the fuck up. But there's a few people out there. So it's not like you're just going to invite everybody on, but absolutely, it's an open invitation. Be our guest. All right.
Thanks for listening.
Closing up for Pry Open Your Third Eye. When you submit for the questionnaires from the website, I'm going to give you the questionnaires and the scoring and how it's done and why. So you're going to get the whole thing. Until next time, leave your third eye open. Full episodes, services, knowledge, and all you'll ever need on scottspacky.com and life-mind.com.
Ocean collides with